Well, I'm Alex Schiffer. This is Vahe Gregorian as he crouches in. We're in the coach's box at Furrow Field, and fresh off a weird, disappointing 43-29 Mizzou loss to Georgia.
I'd say a hard game to get your arms around, just as at least I struggled to try to put it together. And multifaceted and yet just strange. The lead I just used to what I wrote is that Missouri is like a living, breathing Rorschach test. Like you can take what you want to from this game. It really depends on how you see the program.
Yeah.
Because you can certainly feel encouraged by some things that happened today, but absolutely can be distressed by some things you saw.
It's amazing. It almost, I feel like the game was turned on its head where everyone thought the conversation was going to be about Mizzou's defense, given how bad it looked against Purdue, and yet the topic of conversation was how bad Missouri's offense looked, and it really was kind of a trickle-down effect. I mean, the offensive line didn't really do a ton for Drew Lock. The receivers had absolutely no separation on the secondary, and they really – I think I've never seen in Drew Lock's entire career Missouri throw over the middle in short yard packages more than they did today. I mean, they really relied on the tight ends and their running backs to move them downfield, and they just got nothing outside.
They got nothing outside. They got nothing downfield. And at some point, you take Barry at his word. We'd have to look back at, slow it down and look back at some film to see what it was that kept Missouri from going downfield. Barry seemed to suggest that the defensive alignment was such and that Georgia's defensive quality was such that they just weren't getting a chance down there. But he also mentioned that Nate and Emmanuel both were a little hindered by injuries. So, but it was weird. It did not – I hadn't thought too much about that aspect of this till just now, but it just looked like they could not there wasn't a lot of imagination, and maybe they were just stifled by what Georgia was producing. I just didn't think it did much to stretch Georgia.
No, and they didn't take Georgia out of their comfort zone at all. They didn't take any shots downfield. They didn't really – Emmanuel Hall's known for burning cornerbacks. They didn't even try to give him a chance for that. And they didn't get creative either. There was no trick play or there was no anything to really kind of throw them.
I actually thought they might the field goal attempt. You might have heard me mutter, I think that they should fake or watch out for the fake here. I thought they might do a few more aggressive things like that. That said, going to the fourth quarter, they're down 11, I guess. Was that what it was at the time? And one of the things that happened was the defense for sure kept them in the game in the first half. I mean,
absolutely.
They absolutely did. Offense and special teams were the leading tacklers for a little while. Actually, not tacklers because they didn't stop the fumble six. But then the defense couldn't quite stop them. One of the things that I thought was killer for Missouri was at least twice. It might have been three times. I have to look at the box score, but Missouri kind of mounted a little drive, got back just lurking just outside in the darkness on the edge of town, and then smashed right back to Georgia. Quick, instant offense one way or another. And that I give credit to Missouri for hanging in there and still playing through that. I thought that was notable, but it wasn't enough to make it close at the end.
No, it was a weird game. I mean, they had a touchdown off Albert Okwuegbunam's fumble, which was a catch. Looked like he was on his way down, and they called the play dead, and then they didn't call the play dead, and that was a touchdown. The blocked punt was just inexcusable. The missed field goal that looked good but wasn't really reviewed. It was just a bizarre game with how all the scoring happened.
Yeah, and really, I hate Sam Mellinger uses the term that talking about officiating is the ballot of the loser, and I do agree with that to a large extent. That said, some really weird stuff happened. I still want to see another 5 angles on that field goal, but I think it was good.
I thought it was good, too.
I think it was good.
And I would love to see the crane view from that. It looked like it was a little close to the line as it was going over, but I didn't think it had enough to call it.
Well, the one replay I kept seeing it didn't even look like it was over the top of the goalpost. It looked like it was well inside, a foot or so inside. It's a matter of interpretation on Albert O's fumble there.
Yeah.
Albert makes the point, though, and it's the correct point. You got to have ball protection. You don't know what the officials are going to do. The other thing, too, I kind of mentioned it, and it does stand out. It appears reasonably possible that ball was dropped before Holloman, was it? Who scored the long touchdown over here? 66-yarder.
Oh, McCole Hellman, yeah.
Yeah. So coin toss there. That
was
one,
the NFL player, by the way, that famously pulled that? I think it was a Cowboy, or was it?
Was it the Super
Jackson?
Bowl one? Well, Deshaun Jackson did it.
Yeah.
And I think there was also some version of that with Leon Lett in the Super Bowl. But I think that was different.
Yeah.
I think he got stripped from behind. It wasn't really the same thing.
Yeah.
But the point on that play is, okay, you can be bothered by the call if it was wrong. I'm not even sure it was wrong. But the oddity of it is it's not like the guy wasn't going to score a touchdown. I mean, it's sort of just a loophole, right? I mean, it was a dopey thing and should be called back if it wasn't. But it's not like Missouri was not beaten on the play.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, Missouri was beaten on the play. And so I don't know how to look at all those, but it just adds up to a really strange game. And to go back to the initial point, how do you come out of this game looking at Missouri? Do you think Missouri is better than you thought Missouri was, or not as good as you thought it was?
It's tough to say because, I think this was one game on the schedule that everyone thought they would lose, but had the best chance to win with it being the most attractive home game. And to me, this just was a summary of Barry Odom's coaching tenure, not to knock him, but they were good enough to stay in the game, but they just, for whatever reason, they shot themselves in the foot, and fundamental little things caused them from getting over that hump. And I mean, they're still 3-1. They have a very winnable game after this week at South Carolina. And the schedule, I mean, Tennessee and Arkansas don't look very good. They still look like they can definitely go to a bowl game and get at least 8, 9, 10 wins potentially. But this would have been the things that would have come out of this win. I mean, they win this game. They're ranked in the top 15 to 20 probably. Drew Lock is at the forefront of the Heisman race.
Yeah.
This wasn't even a sellout, but it was close. A home attendance, which has been an issue, probably isn't the rest of the year, or you see some sort of uptick. And then
Barry's status.
The talk about Barry getting fired is completely gone for at least another year or two. So
it is funny, by the way. Can I just interrupt that point? Like, I get that every one of the teams in the 9-game winning streak is a team without a winning record. Wyoming, I guess, is 2-2 this year, but every other one is a losing record. But it is still a 9-game regular season winning streak, and we're talking about the guy getting fired, or at least we're talking about it right here. Mm-hmm. I don't see it that way anymore. Maybe I'm just wrong, and I've kind of gotten into the Barry Kool-Aid at this point. But I think you see, again, in this matchup today, was Missouri physically overmatched? No. Were those coaching attributable mistakes? Well, everything in the end goes back to that, right?
Yeah.
But that being said, I find it hard to blame a coach for that fumble.
He's not the officials.
And look, it's a bad snap on that punt that pulls that over. Boy, I mean, in the end, you're accountable for your squad, but I don't think Missouri's being out-coached exactly here, right?
That's fair. I agree with all that. I think, the attendance thing, which attendance is down nationwide in college football, but I mean, Missouri is hurting as an athletic department financially. They have the South End Zone going up. The ticket thing is absolutely a problem. I think, I don't even know, assuming that they do win enough games for Barry to keep his job, if the attendance continues to decline, I think that is a very big issue surrounding Missouri football going forward. But I agree with all your comments on it. I think, Gary Pinkel early on, even though he struggled to make a bowl game, he did show flashes of being able to hang with top teams. I think he's going to have to do something at some point this year to show, and he's not beating Alabama. I mean, if that happens, then you can redo what we said about the Heisman.
You can reset every button that way, right?
But who's left on the schedule to make you him going into year 4 next year? This is the guy long term. You know what I mean? He hasn't beaten. All right, he's won enough games to make a bowl game 2 years in a row, assuming they do this year. But he hasn't beaten a top team. He hasn't. I don't even know if you'd call today a scare against Georgia. I mean, they didn't make it as much of a game as they could have, for sure.
Yeah.
So I do think that there is some addressing that needs to be there at some point.
Well, look, that's a good point. At the same time, you can only play the teams on your schedule, and after Alabama, it's a little easier looking schedule for sure, right? Pretty much could say those all should be winnable games. Doesn't mean they'll win them all. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think what we're both getting to, the common ground we might see on this is that the South Carolina game really matters.
Yes, I think that would be, and
at least in terms of perception again, right?
Yes. Yes.
Hey, it's Blair Kirchhoff, and if you're listening to this, you love Kansas City sports, whether it's the Chiefs, Royals, Sporting, Mizzou, KU, or K-State. And no one covers these teams like the Kansas City Star. If you currently subscribe to the paper or have a digital subscription, thank you for your support. And if you don't, here's a great offer. It's called Sports Pass, unlimited digital access to every sports story and video on kansascity.com. And it's just $30 for the first year. It's the best sports value in town, just 8 cents a day or $2.50 a month. You can't beat that. Subscribe now at kansascity.com/sportspass.
Let's talk about Drew Lock. We can pour one out for the Heisman campaign. I think this was his chance to get in the race, and that, and again, if they beat Alabama, then flush everything we said. But probably the worst game I've seen him play in a long time. Ball security issues.
A couple fumbles.
Couple and
deflections. Those hurt. 4 or 5 of those.
The penalty, he didn't even address this in the post of the game, but they have a chance to score before halftime. They're getting the ball back in the second half. Delay of game, 10-second runoff, and they just go into halftime. What a way to end the half. I mean, that was just awful clock management and just a bonehead move.
I think at that point I thought maybe they just said we just need to regroup and just take a knee, because that was right after the second fumble, right?
Yeah. And 15 NFL scouts here, John Lynch from the 49ers. I mean, and obviously Georgia had guys too. And my whole comment on Drew was, if Drew was, NFL scouts said that this 3-game stretch is really going to show what he's made of, and to really see where he's at in the NFL draft. I mean, he's 0 for 1 so far.
Well, look, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that, I think the big thing is that the scouts have told me is that Missouri need to stay competitive today because of Drew Lock, and that wasn't a thing. And the question persists of him being able to handle top competition going forward. And I think even if they won today, they probably would have, he could have maybe taken a step back if he had a bad game against South Carolina. But just this was a game they needed him to really kind of keep them up in, and there was nothing of that.
I know you've been talking to the NFL scouts, but I will remind you that I don't think Patrick Mahomes had a great winning record at Tech, right?
That's right. I forget what his right. It was like 11-15 as a starter.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So, but that said, what and look, it's always been, I'd say, a long shot to think of Drew as a Heisman candidate, simply because it really, in a lot of ways, is a team award, right? I mean,
they would have needed 9 wins, and that might not have even
9, 10, 11, right? Most of the time, it ends up being something
like the bare
that.
minimum.
Yeah, and I mean, if you just look at it, it almost always, quite often, comes down to the best player on the best team, right? So that was going to be tough from the start. But that said, we were talking about this informally before we got on. This is the day you want to see that guy bring something more out of his team, rise to a certain different level, and it just wasn't there. The flip side of that is that the receivers really weren't getting separation. Again, we have to study the tape to see, if why they weren't trying to go deep a couple times just to shake things up, air it out, spread it out. The interception was on a ball that should have been caught. A couple other balls that were dropped. I mean, his day could have looked a little bit different with a couple things going differently. And the biggest point of all, I could be totally wrong about this, and we'll never know because we don't exist in an alternate reality, but if Albert doesn't fumble that ball, Drew's in a pretty nice rhythm on that first drive.
I would agree.
I like where that was going. And, again, sort of irrelevant because we're not in that universe. But
yeah.
So I guess I find myself thinking again with the completely overstated theme of the day that I'm trying to use, the Rorschach test. Like I the beholder a little bit on this.
Yeah.
I don't blame Drew for the loss, but I don't think Drew did something, did that special thing you'd want out of that guy.
I would agree. I thought out of all the NFL prospects or the guys that really helped Missouri, Albion Kawibinam really recovered after the fumble. Leading receiver, 81 yards. He was very reliable downfield, and he looks like he's not going to be around next year. And Emmanuel Hall, who Emmanuel Hall started reminded me of was Jeremy Macklin. Talent's never been a question, but he gets banged up easily, it seems like sometimes, and he can disappear in a game. He's a 4.3 40 guy, and he should have known that Georgia was going to treat him differently after he had 2 touchdowns against them last year, and he really didn't do anything either to kind of.
How many targets did he even have?
Two, if I'm counting correctly.
And they weren't long balls, were they? Yeah.
No, they were short routes. It looked like
So what I wonder, and we may never know this, but maybe we won't know to the end of the season, is how banged up he is. He only played in that last series against Purdue last week. I don't know how much did he practice this week. They
had all said he played early on in the Purdue game, and then he was out for essentially like halfway through the first quarter until the last series.
Yeah.
He said at practice this week he was fine, and it seemed like was going to be able to give it a go. And then Barry said he was banged up, so either did the groin tightness linger? Was it something else this time? And that kind of transitions into the bye week now. Missouri has a week before South Carolina. Now they have 2 weeks essentially to get healthy and get Hall, all the other guys, Cam Hilton with the broken thumb, all taken care of, and then go win the other Columbia with I don't want to call it a must-win, but I think in terms of perception and what they still want to do, I think it's a must-win in that sense.
I'm with you on that. I'm trying to look up, maybe somebody watching knows this, how that South Carolina Bandy game finish up.
I can check that real quick.
I'll look right now.
Yeah, let's see.
But
30-14, South Carolina's beating Vanderbilt. 5, so that's almost final. Yeah, so South Carolina will be 2-1, potentially 3-1 when Missouri goes in there.
Look, I just figure this. That's a winnable game. This was a different tier, right? You win this game, and now you're in a national conversation a little bit, right? Okay, we're back to reality. That didn't happen. It typically doesn't happen against the number 1 or number 2 ranked team at Missouri. In fact, I was looking through the record book today. It's hard to find those. I think the last number 2 was Kansas in 2007.
Yes, this would have been, I believe, their highest ranked win. It would have been their first win over a ranked team, as we said, from the 2014 season.
Right.
And
last game of 2014.
And it would have been the first win against a team ranked this high since Oklahoma in 2010.
Well, and that Oklahoma team was number 1 in the BCS, I think, but not in the AP poll. That's that's a little logistical or semantics thing. The point is that that would have been the better measuring stick, but it's rare is the point.
Yes.
And so they didn't do that, but let's just kind of get back to the fundamentals here. If you're building a program, let's figure you got to go block by block, brick by brick, and now you got to just start winning games against winning teams. And actually, South Carolina, I think is it 1-2? No, it's 2-1 as of this win if it holds on.
Mm-hmm.
So, a road win against a winning team that looks to me like it's not superhuman. Georgia just ran all over these guys. That's a milestone game for Missouri.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think with this game had a chance to change the course of the season and make it extraordinary instead of, better than ordinary. I've had better words before, but a win, again, as we said, all bets are off as to what happens. But now, again, this was projected as a loss. They lost it. Still plenty of good. The defense, this was the first time since Barry Odom's been named head coach that this looked like a really good Barry Odom defense. They looked awful, all out of sorts last week, all access to the ball. They didn't have any sacks, but they were getting some pressure on Jake Fromm. I thought the secondary looked great. That Christian Holmes pick was wasted. I thought they were going to win when he picked them off on the first. I thought that was the kind of thing they needed to really give them some momentum. And I thought the linebackers looked solid. It now just comes again. You can only do so much against an attack like that with the amount of weapons they have. But Missouri could still win 9-10 games in the regular season. There just won't be anything that assuming the other loss is Bama, if they win 10 games, it just won't be a loss you point to or a win you point to and say that was really impressive. As you said, they just would have taken care of business essentially.
Well, look, and here's the little thing, and sometimes these mean a lot, sometimes they don't. But again, pointing to South Carolina, you win that. All right, you got a little oasis in the desert there, right, in between playing the number 2 and number 1 team in the country.
Yeah.
Probably you're not going to win at Alabama, but you're not losing 3 in a row, right? And so you're 4-2, and you're thinking, well, we've beaten everybody that's not 1 or 2 in the country, So you think you feel a little okay about yourself. So let's see them get to that point. Actually, let's just see this next game. Why they play the game, survive in advance, just go on to the next. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with South Carolina.
Nice. I guess I'm trying to think if there's anything else we haven't touched on. Missouri basketball practice opens next week. Any quick thoughts on that?
No, just but we're now going from 1 year flash to Conzo program, right? And and look, I think they've got an intriguing team, but let's see who's there when it gets going and what they can make up for that they didn't have last year. And I think MVP Jonte Porter, don't you?
Yeah, my only thought I was going to touch on this is, first off, they had, when we were covering their NCAA tournament game, they had 8 guys because the bench got hit so much. I don't know if Conzo took that personally, but I was told before the game that they have almost 19 guys on the roster counting walk-ons.
Okay.
And 2 of those guys can't play this year, and Mark Smith and Drew Smith, the 2 transfers. But still, hell of a deep bench just in terms of bodies. What can they do?
They'll have better practices, I guess, is really where that starts, right? Or that would be the thinking, depending on how good the walk-ons are.
Yeah.
But that's probably part of the point.
Yeah, and my only other comment on them is that they have so many unknowns. Mitchell Smith hasn't played in a year. They had KJ Santos, Javon Pickett, some of their signees from junior college and prep school both didn't play all last season. There's Jonte Porter, I think, is the easy MVP pick because we just don't know what else they have right now.
That's true. That's true.
So that's why I think it's going to be an interesting year because we don't know. We really don't have any idea what they're going to look like and who's going to be a factor until they hit the court. Last year was easy. Before Baxter, it was just Michael Porter and everybody else. This year, it's just a giant question mark. It's like the Riddler. A little Batman reference.
Oh, how about you pulling out the Batman reference?
Before we
I would have preferred a Spider-Man reference just because, But anyway.
You got a Chiefs pick for tomorrow real quick.
I think I said on another podcast, 34-24 Chiefs, so I might as well try to stay consistent.
Okay, so that'd be 3-0 in the Pat Mahomes era.
Yes, it would. Be 4-0 in the Pat Mahomes era if you count as last season. Yeah,
true.
But in the true era, yeah. So look, I maybe the 49ers will have some different answers from Mahomes, but I think Andy Reid's going to be one step ahead of what the 49ers answers are, and I just so far they've been able to just outscore the other guy, and maybe that'll change sometime. But right now, I like their chances of outscoring the other guy more than the other way around.
I guess that'll do it for us. Thank you for joining us. Next time we'll be coming at you will be South Carolina. Sam Mellinger will be with me. So I'm playing. I've had Blair. I've had you. We're playing musical columnists.
Murph Griffin show. Yeah. Bring us in.
Yeah. At least we're not in Kramer's living room. See you guys.
See y'all.